Hello, and welcome back to Sustainability Chats with Friends. I'm so excited to be joined by Elena today. She has started a handbag company called Loué, which really is looking at how can you make it more sustainable than the market average. And so she's using cool things like plant-based materials and cool design to design out hardware and things like that. And so today we wanted to talk about how you can also start a startup that is slightly more sustainable than the market average. And so I would love, please, if you could introduce yourself and then kind of tell us how you got on this journey.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about my journey. So my name is Elena Lisman. I'm the founder of Loué, which is a luxury plant-based handbag brand. I've been working on it for 3 years now, and it only launched in May this year with our debut handbag, the Mano Pochette. It's made in the world's first fully plant-based and plastic-free leather alternative called Mirum by NFW.
Thank you. I didn't realize that it had been 3 years since you started. But how did you kind of start on that? How did you know that you had a customer? Or did you start because you knew that you had a customer, or did you start because you knew that there was like a challenge that you wanted to overcome?
Well, I was the customer. Essentially,
Nice.
I was on the hunt for a handbag for myself, one that I felt good about buying. And I was obviously attracted to the design and the craftsmanship, the quality of leather handbags, but I didn't want to buy leather anymore. And then I looked at more sustainable, vegan alternatives, and I didn't necessarily love the designs.
Mm,
I wasn't excited by any brand out there, and
right.
there was still quite a lot of plastic and not necessarily transparency. Vegan doesn't mean necessarily sustainable or ethical. And
Yeah.
I asked myself, well, could I create a brand that I want to see in the world? And yes, that would be as sustainable as possible, made with plant-based materials, high quality craftsmanship, ethical labor, and beautiful design, and a brand that you just want to kind of follow and engage with.
Oh,
So
I love that.
yeah, that's that's what I did.
That's so cool. And so how did you kind of start out? What was the first thing that you did once you decided that that's what you wanted to do?
So the first step was finding the main material, the leather alternative that I was going to use.
Yeah.
I didn't have a design in mind. I have a chemistry background, not a fashion one. So the design actually came kind of a year later almost. The yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the most important thing was figuring out the material. So I did a lot of research on that, and I finally came across this one material that was, yeah, as I said, fully plant-based.
Yeah.
And it just sounded so exciting and kind of too good to be true. And
Yeah.
I saw that they were showing at the world's biggest trade show in Milan, Collina Pelle. And it was quite a last moment thing. And I bought a flight ticket to go and see it. And when I saw it, when I touched it, it just felt so luxurious, so supple. And I couldn't understand why more brands were not using it.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that I had to create a brand and use, this beautiful material.
That's so cool. Did you find that your chemistry background kind of informed what you were looking for in these materials?
Maybe not so much when I was looking for materials, but when, I knew right away that I had to use this material because
Right.
it was, all the technical tests that it passed and the look and the feel, it was a no-brainer. I
Yeah.
would say my background came into play during the development process when I had to find compatible adhesives and edge paints and laser engraving techniques because Mirum is rubber based. It
Okay.
behaves quite different from leather or polyurethane material, and the factories hadn't worked with it before. So yeah,
Right.
yeah, there was a learning curve for me because it was my very first time. I mean, making any leather good, and for them because yeah, they were not familiar with it. So I had to kind of be in charge of and take the lead on how to do all these processes that normally you just rely on the factory to do.
Right. How
Yeah.
did you convince the factory to work with it?
Oh God.
That sounds like a challenge in itself.
Yeah, so actually, the greatest challenge of bringing the brand to life hasn't been the materials. That
Yeah.
hasn't been easy, but I kind of expected that part to be a bit more challenging and
Right.
take more time. I was mentally ready for it. But what I didn't expect was, yeah, all the manufacturing challenges.
Right.
Finding a factory that is a good partner in terms of quality, in
Mm.
terms of ethics, ethical labor, and also that is just on the same page in terms of development, as in testing and prototyping, because factories like repetition and predictability. They like to
Mm.
work with materials they know because
Yeah.
it's more efficient.
Right.
And so every time you have to do tests and try things out, it's just money that they don't want to necessarily invest in a new
Right.
brand that they don't know how it's gonna go. It's like taking a chance on each other at the end of the day. So
Totally.
I initially started working with a factory in Italy, which seemed like the perfect match on paper because it was recommended to me. But it was a fairly large factory. They didn't dedicate enough time to my project, perhaps understandably so. And I wasn't very happy with the quality from the beginning. They kept telling me it would get better, especially during production. And, I kind of believed that until
Yeah.
at one point I ordered a bag from one of their main customers and
Yeah.
it was awful.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah. And that's when I realized that actually they would never deliver the quality that I wanted.
Oh,
Uh,
that's terrible. I'm glad
yes.
you realized so before you went into full production.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of about to confirm production, although I wasn't very happy with it. I just
Yeah.
couldn't see any other option, but
Right.
thankfully I pulled out just on time. Now
Okay.
it's a big disaster.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so then, because I know you've had a bit of a journey with this, and I know that I don't know if it's the factory he found next, but I know that one of the factories then had to let you go as
Yeah.
well. And so it sounds like a lot of ups and downs with it. Do you think in hindsight there were any red flags that you could have spotted earlier on? Or like signs that you could have been like, oh, okay, actually maybe this was inevitable.
Well, with the first one, there were a lot of red flags.
Yeah.
Yeah, the quality has to be fairly good. The quality of a handbag gets better as the more the factory makes your product, but there is a baseline quality that you should expect from the first sample that you make.
Yeah.
If it's very, very different from what you want, then obviously it's not a match. And then
Yeah.
they have to be willing to implement the changes that you want to make. If they push back on changes, then obviously it's not good.
Yeah.
If they're not very responsive, communicative, and if they don't let you visit the factory, this wasn't my case, but yeah,
Yeah.
if they're not transparent and they don't let you in to see the workers at work, not just the showroom, the actual floor where the work happens, then this is all red flags.
Yeah, it sounds like a massive one. So then how did you end up? Well, I don't know if you want to talk about the second one, but how did you end up with the one that you're at now? And if you do want to talk about the second one, obviously feel free.
Yeah, so basically, after Italy, I tried producing in Italy still, but I just found it very difficult to find a factory that offered both high quality and ethics at the same time at a reasonable price. It felt like you kind of had to choose because the sweatshop problems that we've heard about in the
Yeah.
last year or so, they are very real.
Yeah. It's
So yeah, so after that, I quickly realized actually maybe Italy wasn't the right fit. I started looking for factories all over Europe, even in the UK. There was one who just couldn't make my handbag because it was too complex for kind of UK manufacturing. And then in the end, I landed on this town in Spain called Ubrique. I heard about it from Tane Lenestein. Those who are in the leather goods world will know about his reviews. He's known for ripping apart bags and commenting on the quality. And yes, I heard, there was consistent good quality coming out of this town, and it's where many luxury brands such as Loewe, Louis Vuitton, and emerging ones are now producing. And I went on Google Maps and I saw that there were so many factories close to each other. I thought to myself, well, I would surely find one, and if it doesn't work out, I can just go to the one next door and I will
yeah.
find a solution. So basically, I got a ticket and I just went there. I had some appointments, but then I also went door to door, talking to them and
Oh, I
saying,
love that.
yeah. And I had quite a few contacts in the end. There were a lot of great factories that were willing to work with me. I think Ubrique has seen a lot of emerging brands, Poland, Strathberry, Demilier being successful. And
Yeah.
so they're quite willing to take a chance on a newer brand because, it might do well and, you can grow together. And I found my first factory, it was, the quality was so much better from the beginning. There was no comparison. It was way more technical and advanced in terms of reinforcements, the stitching. It was a whole different level compared to my previous factory in Italy. And I was very close to confirming production. But then, unfortunately, they had to drop me because of issues with another brand that I will not go into. It was just, it was a dream partner. It was a woman-owned factory. So
Mm.
I was very disappointed. But I had other contacts from, my previous visits, and it was fairly easy to find another factory up there. And now I'm working
Mm.
in a fantastic two-person atelier. The owner is also the head artisan. He is so experienced and just brings a lot more than just, the actual crafting. He has a lot of experience with improving the bag. And yeah, so it turned out great in the end.
That's so good. I'm glad to hear it. I am glad to hear it.
Yeah.
And I'm interested, what kind of improvements is he making? Because you said that the design came quite late. Did you end up working with the designer then? And now is he kind of like the equivalent, I guess, of like a in real time design
Um,
as well?
Not quite. So actually, in the beginning, I personally didn't have any design ideas. I looked for a design after finding the material. I looked for a designer for a few months, and I just couldn't find anyone. And I kind of put the project on hold until
Yeah.
I found a designer who was a great match.
Mm.
But again, we started from scratch, doing a lot of creative exploration, inspiration from nature, from, it was very abstract work to try and come up with design ideas. But in the end, I started becoming more and more confident myself because I guess thanks to her, I started training my creative mind, which I didn't know I had. And I realized that actually I do have ideas and I can do this myself as well. And I became more and more confident and I started doing lots of research myself. And in the end, that's how I was looking a lot into vintage handbags and leather working techniques. And that's how I came up with our signature buckle statement in the end, without hardware. Yes.
What, by looking at vintage handbags?
Yeah, so yeah,
Era.
yeah, it's a top closure that's just been reinterpreted in a more modern key. In the beginning, I don't want to use any hardware at all
Right.
on the
I
hand.
remember seeing one of your videos, I think on Instagram, and you said that, and I was like, "Ooh, this is interesting. Why?" And then to see how you solved that with design, I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I mean the reason is just environmental impact. Obviously, metals are mined, and that has an environmental cost.
Mm.
And then traceability is impossible in this space directly to the raw source, how it's mined. It's just not possible for this kind of materials today. So I wanted to avoid it as much as possible. And there's actually this quote by Kate Raworth, who is the author of Modern Economics, and
Yeah.
it says, "Boundaries unleash creativity," and it's something that deeply resonates with me because if I hadn't imposed this kind of boundary on
Mm.
myself, I think I would have never came up with this design. I would have probably just used a magnet or a zipper.
Yeah. I love that too. I really do think that that's like one of the most exciting things about sustainability. It's like the challenge,
Yeah.
like how do you overcome this challenge?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And actually now this has become a unique selling point. Customers
Yeah.
love the fact that there is no visible hardware on the bag itself, that it doesn't clash with anything they're wearing.
Yeah.
And I mean, no matter how good quality hardware is, it ends up scratching eventually and it ages the bag, so this is not going to happen.
I love that. Were there any other like niche design things that you overcame?
Oh, yeah, there's so many to be honest. In terms of compromises, do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, a big one that I ended up spending quite a lot of time on is the thread, which
Oh,
most brands probably wouldn't give too much thought to. But for me, I wanted it to be natural, and cotton just made sense from the very beginning. And we made some samples, and actually, it was fuzzy.
okay.
And the appearance of the bag didn't do justice to the high quality stitching of the artisans.
Mhm.
And fuzzing obviously means fraying, which will likely undermine the durability of the stitching. So in the end, it was just not a viable option.
Yeah.
And I tested, tons of thread, it's too thin. Linen thread, some brands do use it, but none of the factories that I met had, you need industrial sewing machines for that, and
Yeah.
didn't have it. And so in the end, I ended up landing on polyester but recycled, which obviously is
Okay.
better than virgin. It's just not what I wanted, but it's just the only viable option for a high-end leather alternative bag. Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder if cotton could be coated in like a beeswax or something. Would that
I-
work? Or
Yeah.
would it still
Again,
just prove
there's
fine?
cotton, because then you say it's cotton, but then it's not fully like 100% cotton. It was actually coated with silicone, and
Oh,
that was
crazy.
not enough anyway. Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I have another friend who's a handbag designer and she was saying the same thing. And me being me, I was like, but why? Why? Like,
Yeah.
it's so annoying. But yeah, even when I'm like reflecting back on my thesis, at the time though, I didn't have the knowledge that I have now, but I also ended up using a lot of recycled polyester.
Yeah.
I couldn't find a
What
else.
was your thesis about?
It was about raising awareness around sustainability, but through a clothing collection.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it was like a very bold, bright, kind of obnoxious collection. And a lot of the thread I was able to find in secondhand shops, but obviously that wouldn't always work at a commercial scale. But
Yeah.
I couldn't find the colors that I needed for certain pieces, and so I ended up
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
a recycled polyester.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting one. But yeah, I mean, I got to feel your handbags the other day, which was amazing. And they really do feel like leather, which is kind of crazy. Like they have structural integrity, like they're lovely to open. Loads of people were wearing them and raving about them, which was very cool too. Is that just the best moment when you're like, oh my God, I did all of this work. I overcame all these challenges and now people are actually enjoying it.
So this was our first community event in London. And to be honest, it was the first time that I saw customers wearing their Loué handbags in real life.
That's so
And
cool.
it was really surreal because it wasn't just one, there was several of them.
Yeah.
And yes, it felt like, the culmination of years of work and a moment where you can say, yes, it was all worth it.
You are.
And the fact that they showed up, but they got along so well together, and just people bonding over similar values, and it's just very, very rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah. It is super cool. It is super, super cool. I mean, yeah, one of the topics that came up was why you prefer to use the term plant-based over vegan or environmentally sustainable. And I'm interested to learn more about that and also to kind of hear more about how your customers aren't necessarily sustainable customers, but they're luxury customers.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and it's something that actually surprised me too. Before launching, I thought my customers would be die-hard sustainability enthusiasts.
Yeah.
But that hasn't really been the case. Most of my customers are into luxury handbags, and they buy from traditional brands such as Chanel or Hermes, and they're often collectors. They just really love handbags, and they're ready for something different, something maybe nobody else has yet, none of their friends has in their circles. And they just really love the design. This has been the main thing, and they love the look and feel of the material. They also say that it does, look and feel like leather. And to me, this is important to capture customers like that because, they're picking Loué over one of the incumbent brands that still relies so much on animal leather and plastic.
Yeah.
And to me, this is how you make truly meaningful impact. And then another type of customer we have is the luxury vegan customer who has been so underserved. Yes, and
It's basically just Stella McCartney.
yes, and uh, they say that they really struggle to find luxurious vegan handbags, and they want it to be as sustainable as possible. But yeah, what they really care about as well is design and the luxury feel. And yeah,
Yeah. So how did you find them all?
the customer. I think you had another question before.
Oh, did I? Sorry. Yeah, probably. Oh, yeah, that was it. It was how do you find your
Oh, the
customer
plant-based.
and then plant-based versus
Yeah.
environmentally sustainable or vegan?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, sustainable gets thrown around so much. It has lots of meaning. And I think using a word like plant-based is way more descriptive of the product and it communicates right away what kind of material it is.
Yeah.
And then it probably resonates with you or it doesn't, but it just makes more sense to me than terms that most brands use when they're greenwashing.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. So then I guess
I think
I then yeah, I then got too excited. So then how did you find your customer base?
so I have been sharing my whole journey on social media, on TikTok predominantly, and Instagram from the very beginning when I was sourcing materials right up to when I was, working with the first factory, second factory, when they dropped me, the third one. So there are some early followers that just know my entire journey. And then, yes, I've created content and then I've kind of converted them into a wait list for the launch. And then, I would say most of my customers in the beginning have come from this newsletter that I created.
No way, that's so cool. So then how did you go about doing that? And would you recommend that anyone else who maybe wants to start their own business, would you recommend that they do that as well? And kind of like share everything from the get-go?
Yes, I mean, I think it's important for any brand nowadays because we don't have huge marketing budgets. We only have ourselves, right? But I think it's even more important for sustainable brands because we have to make so many little decisions
Mm.
that they have to be communicated because so that people really understand your values and what you stand for. Because if you don't if you don't know about these details, then maybe you don't understand the product and the brand, and so much just gets lost. But
Yeah,
I think for people to really understand the value of our products and trust the brand as well, they need to kind of be aware of all these small choices and the journey. So yeah, definitely build in public and build a newsletter and send a welcome email, have a welcome flow set up. Don't just collect emails and not send anything for a year
right.
because when you start sending emails, they will not really land in your subscribers' inbox. You need to build that deliverability score.
That
Yeah,
makes
so I love my Claudia.
sense.
And yeah, send regular emails and updates. And something that I didn't do in the beginning, but I wish I would have done, is create some small focus groups and don't be afraid to meet your ideal customers or anyone really in real life and show them your prototypes and ask for feedback, ask them to wear it. I think people are willing to be part of this. If you think about it, it's exciting.
It is, it's super cool.
Yeah, so I would do more of that. I'm doing it now. I'm in contact with customers and we've been meeting in person, doing video calls. But yeah.
That's amazing. And I guess if you were so thinking, if anyone is listening now, if they're like, yeah, this sounds amazing. Okay, I have this challenge I want to overcome and I want to build a product to do it. What would be one step that you would recommend that they do next? And what would be one thing that you would recommend that they avoid doing?
Well, the advice that I was always receiving in the beginning was know your customer, which
Uh,
to me didn't make sense because how can I know who my customer is until I launch and I see who actually buys? Yeah, I think my customer in the end turned out to be quite different from, as I said, from what I was expecting. And I mean, it's better. It's a good thing. It turned out right. But I would say spend a little more time understanding that better, because that would have an impact on how you position the brand. Maybe the photography that you do, your pricing, and just overall your communication. And what else? I think many sustainable brands, they are, they want to be affordable, they want to be for everyone, because we want as many people as possible to access them. But, you know, sustainable materials are expensive, ethical labor and high quality labor is expensive. We can't expect our products to be easily accessible for everyone. My handbags are more expensive than I wanted them to be, but it's just the way it is. I can't change that. So yeah, don't be afraid to price your products accordingly, because otherwise you won't be able to have a sustainable business.
Right.
And what else? And yes, share the journey.
That's a good one. And was there anything that now in hindsight you were like, oh, I wish I didn't do that?
I would say when, as I said, manufacturing is the most challenging part
Yeah.
for a product business, probably. Be very clear about what your standard is. Put everything in writing so you can come back to that if needed. It will probably be needed. Yeah, make very detailed documents outlining the quality that you want, the finishing, anything, and take notes during meetings. Things get lost in translation all the time,
Right.
and just essentially make sure you don't leave anything no stone unturned. How is that?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm the worst person to ask about expressions. I grew up in France, so I sound very English, but the English expressions are like, that's just one thing I never got those. I just make up my own expressions all the time.
Well, yeah, essentially be on top of everything.
Okay.
No one will care as much as you do. So
Yeah, I think that's an important one. Do you now have, or did you end up developing a design guide from this, or like an ethics guide from this, or a quality, like you mentioned, having like know what your quality standards and everything are?
I have made several documents, as in feedback documents. I don't have a guideline yet. I haven't had the need for one, an ethics document either. I want to work on something, but it's just because I've worked so directly in close contact with the factories and I visit them so often. I've now recently relocated to Seville to be close to the artisans in Spain. It's just 2 hours away. So there hasn't been a need for, all these documents, but as the brand grows, I'm sure I'll have to put systems in place.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. That is exciting. Do you find that being able to share that on social media is like the best way that you found to kind of bring your customers along with you on the journey? Or do people just trust you naturally because they can kind of see the process?
Interesting enough, a while ago I asked on Instagram stories if being reviewed by Good on You would be helpful to improve our, credibility, and actually the response was that it's not needed, because I've just been so open and transparent about the whole thing, and just people trust me, which was great to hear, but I still want to get reviewed.
Yeah, that's
I obviously sharing the behind the scenes is great whenever I'm in the factory or I'm working on something new. But I think I haven't quite found the perfect format to share. I want to do more storytelling, not just show things. I want to create deeper, better, more engaging content. And yes, I'm working on that. It's not easy. And when you're just dealing with so many things, design, production, operations, customer service, shipping, it's a lot. But yeah, that's one of my goals for the next month or so.
that is exciting. I have some like just like random questions in my mind. They're probably anything, they're just random. But like I'm so curious, how is the material dyed? Because I was at a trade show the other day, and I won't name the material, but there was a material that was plant-based, but it was dyed with regular leather dyes, but without tannins.
Yeah.
And so I was just curious, how is Miriam dyed? And do you get to choose the color, or is it like standard, they have the colors you get to pick?
Yeah, so it depends. Mirum is special because it's not dyed. The color, the pigments are intrinsic to the material. It's a composite material, and the pigments that are also natural, by the way. So the black pigment in it comes from wood waste from a very exciting biomaterial company. And brown, I believe, comes from iron oxide. So yes, the pigments are natural and are essentially built into the material. So there is no peeling or no top coat that will just peel and the color will come off because
Right.
it's not built like that. The new material that I'm going to use, it's called Elevate by Uncaged Innovations, and it also has an intrinsic pigment in it. So it depends. There's another material that I'm currently exploring that is dyed with typical leather dyes. So
Okay.
it obviously is synthetic, it's not natural, but it's a completely different material.
Okay.
And it will serve a very different use case. So
Okay.
I think it's important to, like most brands do, they have different materials for different products, and you need to try different type of materials. And then to your point about colors, it varies a lot. Most companies, they offer a fairly limited color palette and finishes. And so this means that if you want to offer new colors to your customers, then you have to source a new material, which is quite a challenge. With leather, you would just pick your colors from the same tannery if you like the finishing, or PU, you just select a different top coat. But in my case, I mean, when you're a large brand, you can custom make your own colors, but at Loué scale, we are not able to do that yet. So this means sourcing new materials, which is always a bit tricky, challenging. It's you don't know how it's going to go, and it takes time and money to create new prototypes and test. It's also a way to discover new exciting materials. So yeah, it's part of the journey.
That's super cool. I love that it's intrinsic within the material and then that you have to go and actually find other materials if you want to change color. That is super. Is there anything that you feel like isn't really talked about enough in this space, or something that you don't get to talk about enough that you would like to talk about more? Just in our last few, we have like 15 minutes left.
Yeah, I have an unpopular opinion. I'm tired of
Okay.
hearing about fast fashion. I
Okay.
think it was important to talk about it to educate people in the beginning, but I think most people know about it. And if you still shop there, it's not because you don't know, it's because you don't care. So I
Right.
think buying is, it's just too much. And I think we should talk more about brands that are actually doing the right thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is in the sustainability space, I don't know if you've also heard this.
Oh,
They say make sure that your business is sustainable for yourself as well.
okay.
And obviously, it sounds lovely, it makes sense, but the reality is it's just not sustainable at the moment. I am working all day long, every day of the week, because there are just so many things to do. And the level playing field is not even. There's the incumbent brands out there that are spending millions into advertisement. They're gifting all the influencers, and they have all the attention. And then so if you want to have a chance, you just have to do so many things. And I don't see how you can be successful if if you don't pour everything into it. And obviously, this is not my goal. I hope that it will become a bit more sustainable
Yeah.
soon. But yeah, it's just a reality. And I think we don't talk enough about what it really takes and how much work and sacrifice goes into it.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's
Is
just
there,
like, yeah.
oh
Sorry.
no, please go ahead.
No, I think it's quite romanticized, simple fashion and, do things slowly. And I don't know, it's just, no, it's just like any other brand.
It's chaotic and it's constant. Yeah.
Exactly. It's no different.
What do you feel like you need to be able to get that balance?
I would like to be able to take a day off
Yeah.
sometimes, maybe twice a month.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, yeah. Also because I've moved to Seville and I would love to explore the city more and the surroundings.
Right.
But yeah, hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. I'm sure you will. I'm now super curious. What are your days filled with? Because I imagine you must have to do so much, like coordinating with the factory, doing social media. I don't know if you have investors, but maybe reaching out to them.
Yeah, no, no investors yet and no employees.
Right. Well, that's probably why it's
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have another batch of handbags in the new material in production. So managing that, doing the factory visits, traveling for work. I'm currently part of Evo Fashion, a program sponsored by the UK government to help businesses doing things in a better way. And so I was there for 2 days last week. Honestly, photo shoots, emails take such a long time, probably.
they do.
Yeah,
They really do.
I am not a pro, and you come up with an idea and you say, "Well, it's just gonna take 2 hours," and it ends up taking half a day.
Yeah, they take so long. That's my challenge. I'm drafting my next newsletter now because I haven't sent one out in so many. I have not followed your advice. I haven't sent one out in probably 8 months. And so my next one is to be like, hey, you probably don't remember me, but here I am. I'm terrible at this, but I've set myself a goal to send one every month for the rest of the year and
Yeah,
kind of speak to my mailing list about the challenges of that. And because it really does take so much time. It's
yeah,
crazy.
especially if you're articulating your thoughts. If you just send pretty pictures, it's not that complicated. But if you want to write something that
Yeah,
will be well written and meaningful, right? So
it takes time. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights and wisdom with us all.
Thank you so much. It was great to chat with you, and I really enjoy the fact that it was more of a conversation.
Yeah,
And
me too. Yeah,
yeah.
because we've met a few times now and I never get to like ask you all the questions that I want to ask you. It's been great. Thank you. And I'm introducing a new thing to end the podcast, which is basically to ask you what is one curiosity that you would like the listener or the viewer to look more into? And that could be anything. It could be a book, it could be a film, it could be a way of life or an initiative, like literally anything. Is there something that comes to your mind?
Yes, I recommend watching the documentary Fashion Reimagined.
Ooh, I haven't seen that one.
It's by Amy Coney, which is the creative director of ex-Mother of Pearl. Now she has started her own brand, Akin. And it follows her process. It follows her journey of bringing a sustainable and traceable collection to life. And it really shows all the challenges that she had to go through and the realities of doing something in a better way. And it's really great.
That sounds amazing. I'm adding that to my watch list right now. Well, thank you so much for your time and enjoy Sevilla.